$400 piece of land nobody wanted sat untouched for 23 years, until a $72 million real estate empire discovered it couldn't move an inch without it. What do you do when a billionaire needs something only you own? The call came in at 6:14 on a Tuesday morning. Holloway did not say hello. He said, "The parcels are gone, every one of them. All 340 acres of Kalau River industrial land that First Crest Capital had spent 4 years buying, permitting, and financing at $68 million. Gone in 11 minutes of bidding to a single counterparty nobody at First Crest had ever heard of." Holloway's hands were shaking when he typed the name into the county database, Ruben Cayo. The search came back with one result, a 7-acre parcel along the southern bend of the Kalau River, assessed at $400, a farmhouse, a storage shed, annual property taxes of $47, paid on time every single year for 19 years straight. Holloway stared at the screen. He picked up the phone and called his client. His client answered on the first ring. Now go back, all the way back, March 1999. The Delaware County auction was held in the basement of the municipal building on a Thursday afternoon. Folding tables. A coffee pot nobody had emptied from the morning. 43 parcels listed on a whiteboard in black marker. Maybe 60 people in the room. Surveyors, title agents. 2 men from a bank in the capital who wore matching blue ties and talked to each other the whole time. Ruben Cayo was 51 years old. He drove 40 minutes from his farmhouse in a pickup truck. He sat in the third row with a yellow legal pad and a blue pen that kept skipping. He wore the denim jacket that had belonged to his father. He had been in this room before. He knew how it worked. Parcel 31 came up near the end, 1.7 acres, Southern River Bend, flood adjacent, access restricted. No road easement on record. The auctioneer opened at $400. Silence. The auctioneer said it again, $400. From the second row, a man in a charcoal blazer turned to the man beside him. His name was Sterling Vance. He was 44 years old, tan, well-fed, and wearing shoes that cost more than Ruben's monthly grocery bill. Sterling Vance was a regional land developer who had already purchased 6 parcels along the northern bend of the Kalau that morning. He said loud enough for 2 rows to hear, floodland, no access. Nobody's building anything on that. The man beside him laughed, then a second person laughed, then a third. Ruben raised his paddle. He did not look at Sterling Vance. He did not look at the men in the blue ties. He looked at the auctioneer. Sold, $400. Ruben wrote the number on his legal pad and circled it. Then he wrote a second number directly beneath it. Not 12 acres, not $12, just the number 12. He folded the legal pad, stood up and walked to the clerk's table. He signed the paperwork in 3 places. The clerk stamped it. She handed him his receipt. He folded the receipt once and slid it into his coat pocket. Sterling Vance was still in his chair, already looking at the next parcel on the board. He had not watched Ruben sign anything. He had not written down the parcel number. He had laughed and moved on. That was the first mistake. Outside, the air was cold. Ruben stood by his truck for a moment. He looked south, toward the river bend he had driven to 6 times in the past year. He could not see it from where he stood, but he knew exactly what was there. He also knew something nobody else in that basement knew. Something he had found 6 months earlier in a room that most people in Delaware County had forgotten existed. He got in his truck. He drove home. His wife, Nena, was at the kitchen table when he came in. She looked at his coat, then at his face. She asked, "How did it go?" He set the folded receipt on the table between them. He said, "Fine." She looked at the receipt. She looked at him. She did not ask anything else. That night, Ruben sat alone at the kitchen table after Nena had gone to bed. He opened his yellow legal pad to a clean page. He drew a rough outline of the southern river bend from memory. The parcel lines, the water edge, the county road to the north. Then he drew a thin, straight line through the bottom of the 1.7-acre parcel he had just bought. He labeled it, Road C. He sat back. He looked at the line for a long time. Nobody else at that auction had looked up the 1956 Delaware County Corridor Study. Nobody had pulled the old survey maps from the county archive. Nobody had noticed that a proposed river access road, surveyed and budgeted and then canceled in 1961, had been drawn directly through the land that just sold for $400. Ruben had noticed. 6 months ago. And there was one more thing he had confirmed before he ever set foot in that auction room. The road had been canceled, but it had never been legally dissolved. He closed the legal pad. He put the receipt back in his coat pocket. He turned off the kitchen light. Before this gets any wilder, hit subscribe right now, because what Ruben found in that library is something that should not have been possible. And Sterling Vance has no idea it exists yet. September 1998, a Saturday morning. A cardboard box on a shelf that no one had opened in 11 years. Ruben found it by accident. He had gone to the Delara County Public Library looking for a 1978 zoning variance filed on a different parcel entirely. A land boundary question for a neighbor. A favor. Nothing important. He had finished in 20 minutes and was putting the folder back when he saw the label on the box beside it. Callao River Corridor Study, 1956. He stopped. He pulled the box. He carried it to a reading table in the back room, behind the periodicals, where the light came in flat through a high window. He set his coffee down. He opened the box. Inside was a mimeograph document. Blue carbon paper, 41 pages. Some of the edges had gone soft from moisture. The county seal on the cover was still clear. He started reading. The 1956 study had proposed 6 river access points along the southern Callao for commercial and agricultural use. Access road A through F, each one surveyed, budgeted, and mapped. The maps were included in the back of the document on large folded sheets. Reuben unfolded the sheet marked Road C. He looked at it for a long time. Road C ran directly through what the current assessor's map listed as Parcel 31, not around it, not near it, through it. A 12-foot corridor straight across the southern edge of the parcel, granting legal river access to everything on the north side. He kept reading. In 1961, the county had canceled the entire Callao Corridor project. The Eastern Highway bypass had made it redundant. The minutes from the county commissioners' meeting in March of that year were clipped to the back of the study with a rusted paper clip. He read the cancellation notice 3 times. The project was canceled. But there was no vacatur resolution. No formal legal document dissolving the easement. The road had been dropped from the budget. The construction crew had never broken ground. But the survey had been filed. The easement had been recorded. And under Delara County Code, a recorded easement does not disappear because someone stops talking about it. It stays on the books. Reuben sat in that reading room for 2 hours. He photocopied 11 pages. He paid 1/10 at the front desk. He put the copies in his jacket and walked to his truck. He did not tell anyone what he had found. He came back 3 more Saturdays in a row. He pulled every document he could find that touched the southern Callao Bend. Tax records going back to 1941, title chains, easement filings, a 1972 letter from the county engineer asking whether Road C should be formally vacated. The letter had never been answered. No resolution, no ruling, no vacatur. He taped that letter to the front of a new folder. At home, the kitchen table became his workspace. The kettle was always on. Nina moved around him without asking. She had seen him this way before, quiet, focused, reading things no one else thought to read. She set a fresh cup beside him once and looked at the map spread across the table. She asked one question. "Is that the river land?" he said. "Part of it." She nodded and went back to the stove. That was enough. Over the following months, Reuben drove out to the southern bend 17 times. He brought a notebook. The green one Nina had given him 2 Christmases ago, the one with the stiff cover and the grid paper inside. He mapped the parcel lines from memory and from the county survey sheets. He noted where the survey flags had been placed in 1956. He noted where the tire tracks were fresh. He started tracking land purchases. The county deed records were public. Reuben checked them every month. He wrote the new ownership names in the green notebook, column by column, parcel by parcel. In 1996, a company called Callao Land Partners LLC had purchased 2 parcels on the northern bend. In 1997, the same LLC purchased 3 more. By the time Reuben sat down in that auction basement in 1999, Callao Land Partners LLC, which he had since traced to a regional development firm based out of the capital, had acquired 14 parcels along the northern and central Callao Bend. 14 parcels, hundreds of acres, and every single one of them was landlocked from the river by the parcels that remained. There was one way to get vehicles and equipment from the northern assembly to the river's edge for any kind of industrial or commercial build. One legal path that did not require crossing private land without permission. Road C, the 12-foot corridor that ran through the bottom of Parcel 31. The land that had just gone unsold at every auction for 6 years running. The land nobody wanted. Reuben sat at the kitchen table on a Wednesday evening in October 1998. The kettle had gone cold. The maps were spread in front of him. He had drawn Parcel 31 in the center of the sheet in heavy pencil. He had drawn Road C through its southern edge in red. He drew the northern parcels around it. He looked at what he had drawn. He closed the notebook. He did not need to say it out loud. The entire northern assembly was worthless for development without a legal access path to the river. That path existed on paper only, and it ran through land nobody had bothered to buy. A knock at the door, 3 firm knocks. A Tuesday afternoon in the spring of 2003. Reuben set down his coffee cup and walked to the front door. A young man stood on the porch, pressed khakis, a company lanyard. Clipboard under his arm, smile already arranged. He said his name was Delgado. He represented an agricultural land trust out of the capital. They were acquiring parcels along the Kalawa River for conservation purposes, he said. Long-term preservation, a good cause. He offered $8 for the 1.7-acre parcel. He said it like he was doing Ruben a favor. Ruben looked at him for a moment. No expression, no hurry. He said, "No, thank you." Delgado blinked. He said the land had access limitations. He said the flood risk made it a liability. He said $8. 00 was a strong number for a parcel in this condition. Ruben said, "I appreciate you coming out." He closed the door. Nena was in the kitchen. She asked who it was. Says Ed, "Someone selling something." She handed him his coffee. Neither of them said anything else. That was the first offer. Ruben noted it in the green notebook. Date, name, amount, company. One line. He closed the notebook and set it on the shelf above the kitchen table, where it had sat for 4 years. He kept mowing the strip twice a year, spring and fall. The 1.7 acres did not need much. He used the push mower for the flat sections and trimmed along the survey markers by hand. He paid the annual tax bill every April. $47, same as always. He filed the receipt in the folder behind the kitchen cabinet. The strip sat untouched and unnoticed and exactly the way he intended. The second offer came in 2008, not a knock this time, a phone call. A man named Pritchard, Deputy Planning Commissioner for Delara County, formal voice. County letterhead to follow, he said. The county was revisiting the Kalawa River corridor for a regional drainage and greenway project. Parcel 31 had come up in the environmental planning review. They were interested in access staging. He offered $41,000. He said the county had a clear public benefit case and would be moving forward with or without voluntary sellers. Ruben asked one question. He said, "Has the 1956 Road C easement been formally vacated?" Silence. Pritchard said he would need to look into that. Ruben said, "When you find the answer, call me back." Pritchard never called back. Ruben noted the offer in the green notebook. Date, name, amount. He underlined the amount once. Then he noted the question he had asked, and the silence after it. The third offer came in 2014. Sterling Vance did not come himself. He sent his lawyer. Her name was Forsyth. She arrived in a black company car at 10 in the morning, 3-piece suit, leather briefcase. She accepted the cup of coffee Nina set on the kitchen table without looking up from her papers. She said First Crest Capital had now acquired 22 parcels along the Kalawa River bend. She said the company was preparing to move into the permitting phase of a major riverside development. She said Parcel 31 had come up in the access review. She offered $190,000. She said it was the fair market ceiling for land with no road access and persistent flood risk. She set the term sheet on the table between them. Ruben did not touch it. He asked her to spell her name. He wrote it in the notebook, slowly, every letter. He said, "I'll think about it." She called back 5 times over the following month. On the 5th call, she mentioned eminent domain. She mentioned it the way people mention things they want you to be afraid of while pretending they're just making conversation. Ruben wrote that down too. Then he called the county recorder's office and asked 2 questions. First, was there any active proceeding to vacate the Road C easement? There was not. Second, had First Crest Capital or any affiliated entity filed any application touching the easement? They had not. He hung up. He opened the folder behind the kitchen cabinet. He counted the documents inside. 43 pages. The original 1956 study. The 1970 engineer's letter. 5 declined offers in writing. 63 years of tax records on Parcel 31. The county code section on dormant easement rights. And the $400 auction receipt. Still folded. Still in the coat pocket, which now hung on a hook by the back door. He put the folder back. Their daughter, Carmen, drove up from the city that summer. She was 12 the first time Ruben had taken her to see the strip of land. She had stood at the edge of the parcel in rubber boots and asked why they owned it. He had said, because nobody else looked. She had thought about that for a moment and then gone back to looking for frogs near the water edge. She was in her 30s now, a property attorney. She had gotten there on her own. She did not know what was in the folder, not yet. In a boardroom 60 miles north, Sterling Vance stared at a map on the wall. His lawyers had spent 4 months trying to identify an alternative legal access path to the river. 3 engineering firms, 2 title searches, 1 very expensive opinion letter. There was no alternative. Road C was the only recorded easement crossing the river access corridor. Every other path required crossing private parcels with no legal easement in place. His lawyer paced. His project manager said nothing. The permit clock was running. Sterling Vance had been laughing at the wrong man for 15 years. On a quiet morning in the fall of 2021, the phone on the kitchen table rang. Ruben was drinking coffee. He was not reading. He was not reviewing the folder. He was just sitting. The number on the screen was unfamiliar, a capital city area code. Nena looked up from across the room. Reuben looked at the screen. He picked up the phone. He did not answer yet. He just held it. The voice on the phone was not Forsyth. It was a man named Creel. New voice. Clipped sentences. He said he was calling on behalf of First Crest Capital and that his client was prepared to make a final offer. Reuben set his coffee cup down before Creel finished the sentence. He said, "Go ahead." Creel said $1.2 million. Clean title transfer. 30 days to close. Reuben was quiet. Creel said it again in case the line had dropped. Reuben said, "I'll call you back." He hung up. He called Carmen that afternoon. She picked up on the second ring. He told her the number. He told her who had called. He told her it was time. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I'll be there Saturday." She arrived with a box of files she had been quietly building for 2 years. She spread them across the kitchen table beside the green notebook and the original folder, the original deed, the 1956 study, the 1972 engineer's letter, 63 years of tax receipts. She read in silence for 40 minutes. Nina made tea. She set cups beside each of them without asking. Carmen looked up. She said, "Dad, did you know Road C had never been vacated when you bought this?" He said yes. She looked at the table. She looked at the permit applications First Crest had filed. She looked at the access diagram in the engineering report, where every legal path to the river ran through Parcel 31 and nowhere else. She said one more thing. She said, "They need us more than we need them." He said, "I know." She picked up her phone. Creel got the call back from Carmen, not Reuben. She said her client was not interested in a sale. She said her client was open to discussing a permanent easement agreement, a monthly payment, fixed term with inflation adjustments, transferable to heirs. Creel said his client had not authorized easement terms. Carmen said, "Then call him." Creel called her back in 40 minutes. He said First Crest was willing to discuss terms, but a monthly structure was not viable for their financing model. Carmen said, "That's not my client's problem." There was a pause. Creel said he would need to consult again. 3 weeks later, First Crest filed a legal challenge. The argument was abandonment. Their lawyers claimed that 60 years of county silence on Road C amounted to a constructive dissolution of the easement. They cited 3 cases. They had 2 surveyors. They had a planning memo from 2006 that did not mention the 1956 study. Carmen did not panic. She placed 3 documents on the table at the county hearing. The first was the original 1956 survey filing, with Road C clearly recorded. The second was the 1972 county engineer's letter asking whether Road C should be formally vacated. The third was 63 consecutive years of property tax records for Parcel 31, issued by the county, showing the easement corridor was never removed from the assessed parcel record. She said one sentence. She said, "The county kept taxing this land every year," which means the county itself never treated it as abandoned. The judge looked at the 3 documents. She looked at First Crest's lawyers. She ruled in under 90 seconds. The challenge was dismissed. Creel reached for his phone before the judge had finished speaking. The negotiation took 11 days. Creel pushed back twice on the monthly figure. Carmen did not move. On the third call, Creel accepted every term. $14,200 per month. Permanent easement. Inflation adjusted every 5 years. Transferable to Reuben's heirs. First Crest retained access rights to Road C for the life of the development. Reuben would never have to sell a single inch. Carmen called him that evening. He answered after 1 ring. She said they took it. He said, "Good." He hung up. Nina looked at him from across the kitchen. She did not ask. She put the kettle on. The signing was at the county clerk's office on a Wednesday morning in March 2022. Creel was there, 2 First Crest associates, a notary. Carmen sat beside Reuben with her pen already uncapped. Reuben signed in 4 places. The clerk stamped each page. He walked out to his truck alone. He sat in the driver's seat. He reached under the seat and pulled out the green notebook. He turned to the last used page. Below 63 years of entries, offers, dates, names, amounts, 1 question asked and never answered. He wrote 1 line. Month 1, April. He closed the notebook. He set it on the passenger seat. He started the truck. In a glass office 60 miles north, Sterling Vance read about the agreement in the local business paper. No comment was attributed to him. No statement from First Crest. The small column ran on page 7. The people in that auction basement in 1999, the surveyors, the title agents, the 2 men in matching blue ties, had long since scattered to other counties, other projects, other deals. None of them remembered Parcel 31. None of them remembered the man in the 3rd row with the skipping pen. One of the men in the blue ties, when he heard the number years later, said he didn't believe it. He was told it was public record. He said nothing after that. Some men spend a fortune building empires they can't access. Reuben spent $400 and waited. Here's the question. If someone offered you $1.2 million for something you had been offered $8, 0 for 20 years earlier, would you have taken it? Or would you have waited for the monthly deal? Drop your answer below. And if this kind of story is what you stay for, you know where the subscribe button is.